Hello, 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 everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you guys hear me. Let me see if I want to do which screen I want to share. This one. And we're going to go to full. Um, I'm trying to go to full insert file view. Oops, hello. View, sorry, present. Uh, oh man, what do I choose okay. I want to do reading view.
You just go in the lower right-hand corner. You see a lower right-hand corner.
Yeah, this one,
There's
present.
yeah, that one, yeah.
Okay. All right. Everybody sees my screen now? Very good. Okay.
Well, actually, no, that wasn't the one that we wanted to see. That's your view. Can you X out of it?
Okay. Sorry guys. Um, wait, maybe you know what? I can just switch screens. I can
I mean,
just switch
yeah, it
this.
should be that should be the view, but for some
That
reason
okay.
yours is showing
Now
something
you
else.
see it should be there you see my screen. Okay.
Perfect.
Now we
Now,
got
what
it,
if you
right?
turn on your webcam? How's that show up?
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Let me try that one more time. Webcam. Share my webcam. All right. You guys seeing me in here? Yay! Hey, hey, hey. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
All right. All right. We're looking good. Um, Let me make sure we're getting everybody's
I
questions.
wonder if I show my. Oh, I can't show my. Let me. What if I turn my webcam
Maybe,
on?
do you think we can you do that? Yeah, there
Oh,
you go. Hey! All right. We get both of them. We get
yeah.
both of them. All right.
You can
Okay.
see my
Awesome.
messy office and Boris's pristine
All
background.
right. I'm loading up all the questions for you guys so I can, you guys can post them in our in the chat room. So it's usual pandemonium. I mean, like I don't even know where to start. Kate and I are just trying to figure out what's going on, and like everything literally changed in the last 5 minutes. We're going to run you through the basic scenarios of what we think is going to happen, and also sort of the grander, longer term themes. There's still going to be at least I would say an hour. It's only 8 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's going to be at least an hour before you get any kind of clarity. But I think the early read, before we even kind of get into it, is Trump. First of all, it doesn't look like we're going to get this massive blue wave. It's still a big question mark whether the Senate. I would say the chances of the Senate turning blue have gone down. McConnell, especially, just won his Senate seat in Kentucky, and that took the stock index futures down. So understanding why it's negative risk that the Senate stays red. Let's sort of like get through the scenario. Biden wins, Senate stays red. That means we don't have unified government, and that means basically we don't have the massive stimulus spend. The reason the market was rallying so hard was this initial hope that you have Biden president, blue Senate, and of course blue House of Representatives. That's a $3 trillion spend. It's like pure adrenaline for the market. Now, the secondary scenario that's sort of second positive is the House stays blue because the House obviously has done very well. The Senate goes red, and Trump does a surprise victory. So Trump forces the Senate to spend, and you still get a decent spend, and that's going to be very very positive equities, but very positive risk. But that's going to be it's going to be very hard to determine that right away. What seems to be happening, which is the worst of all possible scenarios for the market, but if you're a political junkie, it's probably good, is it's very likely that Biden's probably going to eke out a win, but the Senate could stay red. And then you get incredible gridlock. I mean, McConnell is just the worst human being in the world as far as trying to cooperate with Democrats. And you can see my political stripes. I don't know if anybody's been following my Twitter. I said I will stop being an atheist if the turtle loses. That's McConnell's nickname, and he apparently won. So still, my atheism has been redeemed for the time being. Anyways, the point being is um, we may be heading towards that scenario. That's not that great for stocks. We'll have to see how stocks react, whether they sort of believe that ultimately there will be some kind of a stimulus that goes on. But in the meantime, we saw the initial surge, the initial market reaction was obviously, if it's all blue, very positive risk, very positive equities, very positive Bitcoin, because then there's the belief there is that massive spend is going to be lower dollar, flows into Bitcoin as an alternative asset. You saw Bitcoin go to 14,000. All those things were happening. But for now, we're back to kind of watching the state by state. From just the very, very micro level, what's happening, I think, is that Trump is clearly underperforming in the suburbs, right? He's still got his core base. His core base is very motivated. It really came out, but he's underperforming in the suburbs. The really big question is, will that underperformance be enough in places like Ohio? Like, all Biden has to do is win Ohio. If Biden wins Michigan, he doesn't even have to win Pennsylvania. He can win Michigan and Wisconsin, which I think is, given the polls, very likely he's going to do that. And he wins Ohio, that's it. He's done. So it's the suburban vote that's clearly underperforming for Trump. How much is the big question? Even in Florida, he was underperforming. What happened in Florida, the reason why it looks like Florida is going to go to Trump is because he had a massive new vote amongst the Cubans in Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade was a very Democratic county, and now it went like 55-45 to Biden versus like 65-35. That's the big, that was the big thing. Biden actually outperformed everywhere else on the Gulf Coast. If anybody knows anything about Florida, you understand the flows there. So that's basically it. I will, so that's the latest of the headlines to get you guys going in here. And now, let me turn it over to Kay, who's going to kind of run you through
the Slack channel too.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of people who are jumping in right now are hearing, Boris kind of get right into the meat of it, which is great. He's kind of giving the insight into what's happening, in the polls right now. But I know that there's also a lot of people who are joining us that may not be Americans. And I think it's important to lay out the landscape, give some explanation on what we're anticipating in terms of the schedule of poll closes, the schedule of poll releases, and just to take a step back and walk you through the schedule for tonight and the possible scenarios, because we're throwing out all these names of states which you may or may not know is blue or red, or how many we need in order to swing one way or the other. So I think it's important to provide a little backdrop about that, and also to outline to you exactly what it means if certain parts of the government go blue or red, but to explain it in further detail. I think there's, as I said, there's a lot of you who may not be Americans following politics as much. So let's set the stage for this conversation that we're going to have. And of course, as the polls close, and you see me turning my head because I've got multiple screens, I'm watching the headlines, that we will update you on that. But before all of that begins, my name is Kathy Lean, and that's, you heard my colleague Boris Schlossberg, and we're delighted to be here speaking with you tonight. This type of opportunity comes once every few years. We were live trading the 2016 election, the French election, which actually turned out to be more of a dud. I think Boris was the screen.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I know. I'm just I'm trying to organize my slides so I can follow Twitter as well. Go ahead.
No problem. So this type of volatility is something that we typically only see once every few years. And as you've seen so far in some of the market movements, and for those of you that are just tuning in, initially we saw a rally in stocks when we first started to get a little bit of the closes in Kentucky and Indiana, and stock futures, of course, because the Dow Jones Industrial Average is closed. And then now they're down sharply. And Boris kind of talked a little bit about why they're down sharply. And for those of you just tuning in, typically when we have kind of governments where we don't have, kind of the Senate, the president and Senate kind of being on the same page, that can create a lot of gridlock. And the fear of gridlock is driving stocks lower. In terms of currencies, on a general basis, we haven't seen risk aversion yet. We are seeing a little bit of US dollar strength, and we'll talk a little bit more about how each candidate affects currencies in just a little bit, but we are already beginning to get market moves, and you can expect a lot more in terms of these swings in the markets as some of the more important polls come in. And that's, basically what we want to kick off the conversation on. Now, this is live trading the U.S. Election. So, when we see opportunities, we will call them out, but it is a bit early in terms of the stage of the game to really say what's happening. But when we have trades, we'll call them out. Boris focuses more on CFDs and stock index futures, and my focus is on currencies. So
right, and just let me just interrupt for just 1 second, just to let you guys know. So it's not all going to be just political commentary and just charts. We're going to share our strategies with you. We're going to share with you exactly how we trade. So hang out with us. Even if we don't necessarily have trades right away, we're going to show you what we do on a day-to-day basis, our bread and butter trades, which I'm going to hopefully be able to employ today. So it's going to be very, very interesting, I think, for everyone, even if we don't necessarily have the trades right away as far as news flow goes. Go ahead.
Okay, so Decision 2020. Let's kick off with some of the prepared content we have. What do the numbers say? Well, right now the numbers. I don't know if you can pull up, Boris. Can you pull up like maybe the New York Times or CNN and pop it on the screen so we can be very relevant and talk a little bit about what the numbers say? First.
You mean like as far as the latest?
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful. Yes.
Okay.
What we do know, at the onset is that there was record turnout in terms of, early voting. And it is widely believed, although it's hard for me to actually say, is that, a lot of the early voting and in-person early voting happened by Republicans, and the mail-in voting, more Democrats, opted for mail-in voting. So that's why some of the initial numbers may skew more towards Republicans than Democrats. But if Boris can pull it up, I know that right now it's.
Yeah, I'm looking for the dashboard because what I want to show you, the New York Times has like this dashboard that just give me a few minutes, okay? You keep talking and problem. Once when I find it, I'll let you guys know. Go ahead.
So the way it looks like it's shaping up is that if you know anything about U.S. politics, you know that it has nothing to do with the popular vote. It's always about the Electoral College. So each state is allocated a certain number of Electoral College votes, and any single candidate needs 270 votes to win. And it seems like Trump currently has
55,
and Biden has 85.
85. Okay, because and all the usual suspects have reported.
Now, Florida, do you know how many is allocated to Florida?
I think 29. I forgot.
Yeah. So Biden still has a bit of a lead, but what the market was reacting to two things at the onset, which have come in. One, which is McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, winning re-election, which basically tells us that there's still quite a bit of a Republican stronghold, and they're not as, how do I say this in a PC way? They're not as pissed off.
They're not as weak. They're not as weak as the polls said. I mean, there was sort of an expectation of a major shift, and it looks like it's going to be a very, very tight race. Like it's going to be a real nail biter as usual. Yeah. I mean, everybody knows the U.S. map. What's interesting, by the way, just one other piece of news. So everybody knows the U.S. map. This is blue. This is blue. This is blue, right? This is purple. Everybody's kind of trying to figure out where that's going to go. This is blue, and this is blue, right? This is without doubt. Now, the Trump people, this is very hardcore blue, but the Trump people right now have just filed a last minute writ to stop vote counting in Las Vegas. Las Vegas makes up like 80% of Nevada's vote counts, so they're clearly trying to suppress the vote in Las Vegas to see if they can turn Nevada red. The Trump strategy is they have to win everything they did before, right, and then flip one of the Democratic states, one of the blue states, into red. Their best chance was in Nevada, and they're clearly trying to make that play, right? Because right now, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, definitely looking like they're going to stay blue. Pennsylvania is the big question mark. Now, if Pennsylvania goes blue, it doesn't matter what. Well, Pennsylvania goes blue, but Nevada goes red. It's an open game, right? Which brings me back to this. Ohio becomes a super interesting story
So
today.
I think that's really a good time to talk about when we will get these results, because it's
Right.
important to know as the clock ticks, what are we expecting? 6 o'clock right off the bat, the polls closed. This is a good chart to show. The polls closed in Kentucky and Indiana, and we know those were, easy wins for President Trump because, they are Republican strongholds. 7 o'clock was when Florida and Georgia was going to start to come in. And it seems like for the most part, most people are calling Florida to President Trump and Georgia to President Trump as well. Even if you hover over the previous map that Boris showed, it seems like those two states will go there as well. So that's basically 45 electoral college votes if that goes to Trump. And then, the tricky part of this election versus the other election is that there are so many, there are too many battleground states, and we have to watch them very closely. At 7:30, sorry, not 7:30, delayed to 8:15 is North Carolina, and North Carolina and Ohio, which should be coming soon. Those are key presidential swing states as well. And then 8 o'clock is when we start to get Michigan and Pennsylvania. The big problem is that Pennsylvania, they there's a concern that they're not going to get all the votes counted today, and not enough at least to swing the electoral college one way or the other. So we'll have to see if they may drag things out a bit longer. And then I think pretty much, and correct me if I am wrong, Boris, by 9 o'clock, we have Wisconsin, at which point, we should kind of know, right? Or get a good sense.
Well,
because Wisconsin,
again, I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan, if Wisconsin, Michigan go to Biden, that really puts a lot of pressure on Trump. But the Trump so far, there was a lot of hope for a couple of really unusual flips. Well, Florida obviously was a long shot, but Georgia there's a hope that Georgia, there's this big move basically in southern part of the U.S. towards a much more blue electorate, as many people from the West and from the North have moved down here, and down here for economic opportunity, they've turned this whole area much more blue. The question is how much blue? That's really the big question. So far, the answer is not enough. And that's going to be the really big question. Is it enough to flip any of these things blue? Obviously, the highest probability of flipping blue would be Ohio and Pennsylvania. These are the two that were the closest. We'll see. But again, the hard part about tonight is, even if, let's say, Biden wins Wisconsin, Michigan, and it's a big toss-up in Pennsylvania, and then Trump somehow manages to flip Nevada, it's a toss-up. It again creates an incredibly tense situation, and far less resolution than we think.
If Trump
that's basically
Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan. If Trump wins Florida, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Then if Trump wins those, then it becomes a much more clear race to Trump. Correct. Yes.
So anything goes, but in some ways we may know by 9 o'clock is what I'm saying. Now,
but those would be big, really big surprises. Like that would be that is not conventional wisdom, because those states are significantly a wide margin to Biden. So that would be a big surprise. And if those surprises come in and they shock, I think then, you can pretty much call the election over at that point. Yes.
And the margins were quite wide going into the election in terms of the spread by which Biden was supposed to win. I think some of them had it at 7 or 8 points.
Right.
But it's tightening, and the fact that it's tightening is one of the other reasons why stock futures turned negative, because it's no longer clear that that Biden is a shoo-in. So we're going to be watching the polls. Even with stock futures, they had been down 200 points at one stage, and now is only down about 100 points. So we're going to be seeing what kind of opportunities there are as a result of that. But the battleground states are the ones that you see in this chart here, and it's close. Georgia, Florida look like they're going to Trump, and you can see Florida was really close, and they thought Trump was going to win by a 3-point spread in this not so old chart. So we'll have to see. Now the question is what does this mean for trading? What does this mean for the markets? And Boris talked a little bit about that. We talked, a little bit about what this means for the markets, but not many people realize that in some ways the markets have done a pretty good job of predicting who could be the next president. So perhaps we could turn to that to get us a gauge of who actually could be the winner. Boris, you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So
sorry.
The one before this. So
This one?
this dollar has had pretty decent predictability in terms of the next president. If you take a look at this table, what it basically tells you is that the change in the dollar index 3 months before the election has a strong predictive nature of saying who's going to be president. Basically, if the dollar falls, we tend to have an incumbent win. If the dollar rallies, we tend to have an incumbent loss. Now, the change in the dollar in 2020 is not that significant compared to previous years, so it's not as if there's a huge variation. So I would argue that it's even flat. But the fact that the U.S. dollar, at least from a dollar perspective, did not fall significantly, I guess, suggests that Biden could potentially win this. Although this is a very tough call because it's pretty much flat. I think that stocks have a clearer story to tell, which is what you'll see in the next slide. So the next slide talks about how the S&P 500 has been a great indicator of presidential elections 3 months out. This is a chart that says a lot. Basically, the lighter blue bars show when the incumbent party has won. The incumbent meaning the current sitting president or existing party, and the blue represents the current party losing. So basically, it says the stocks do well, the current president wins. If the stocks do poorly, the current president tends to lose, and that's why President Trump, through his term, has kind of lived and died on trying to push stocks up. So stocks have been doing quite well. So from an equity market perspective, and even from an anecdotal perspective, if you talk to anyone who was on the fence, they'll be quick to say that Trump has done a great job for the markets, and they're happy with that. And they think that Biden gets elected, the markets are going to crash, and so they're going to be clicking that President Trump button when they get to the polls. So I think fortunately, unfortunately, depending upon where you stand, there are far more people who probably feel that way than they'll readily admit. And so if the stock market is right, and it's done a pretty good job in the past 8 decades in predicting the presidential election, that Trump has a very decent chance of winning, even though the initial polls suggested that he may not. So the next slide just shows a little bit of the spreads that we have seen in the markets. And the reason why I think these numbers are important is because you can see in 2004 the spread was kind of tight. In 2008, it's this just shows you what the market was predicting versus what actually happened. And in many ways, a Trump win is a bigger upset than a Biden win. And I think that whenever it comes to trading, it's always important to take into consideration how what everyone's thinking and how the market is positioned. And I think for the most part, especially based upon the polls that were released.
Sorry, Kay, just to interrupt you. I'm just looking at the latest stats. So Carolina, North Carolina. This is North Carolina. Biden on the early vote is 55 against 43 on Trump, and Cunningham, which is the Dems Democratic contender, is 53 against 42. This is an early vote, obviously very, very packed, because early vote was like 3-1 Dems, but it's a big pad. So that looks, much more even than red at this point. So we've got to keep an eye on North Carolina. Okay, go ahead.
So I think more investors are positioned for a Biden win than a Trump win. So that means that a Trump victory would probably have a bigger impact on the markets than a Biden victory. And I think that's important to take in consideration, because if we do have a Trump win, we could have a Trump win, especially as the numbers are currently showing the Senate remaining red. Then we could certainly have a scenario where we do get minimally today's move in the Dow repeated, a 2% rally, and it's probably much more than 2%, but minimally a 2% rally in the Dow that probably has continuation, especially if it's definitive, and a rally in the US dollar, which is kind of what we're seeing right now. I mean, the market is seeing that the spread is tightening in Trump's favor and driving the dollar up as a result. When will we know? It could be a long night ahead. It may not. I mean, it's highly unlikely, I think, that Trump is just going to come out and win all the swing states that we talked about at the onset. But in 2016, Hillary did not concede to Trump until 2 a.m. We're not going to be trading with you until 2 a.m. Boris Johnson at CNBC talking about the election at 2 a.m.
Yeah, 4 a.m. actually.
We know by midnight New York time, if not sooner. But in normal years, of course, this is not a normal year by far, and so it could be back to those days of Gore versus Bush, where I think it was on December 12th or 13th, I think it was the 13th, that the Supreme Court basically made a decision in favor of Bush. I hope it doesn't go that way. You see the hesitation in my voice?
The one, it's interesting, the one universal yes, or the one universal question from both Republicans and Democrats when they did the exit polling today was that they were hoping that this was going to be over tonight. I think if this goes long, it's already been an unbelievably stressful year for everybody. If it goes like another 5 more weeks, I don't know if the country can take it. It's just, it's everybody's already going to be like on pins and needles. So yeah, I think the chances of that are unlikely, but you never know. There's a lot of various permutations that can play out. I'll get into more wonky stuff about how things could wind down even more weirdly. But let's talk a little bit about.
Pennsylvania could decide things, and Pennsylvania doesn't have their ballots. Chances are Pennsylvania won't have all their ballots counted, and so that's what I kind of fear a little bit.
Right.
So yes, let's talk about how Trump can win.
Okay. You want to take that slide, or you want me to take it, Kay?
Okay. Well, in terms, we're going to go through the scenarios and talk about, basically what could bring each candidate to victory. I think we talked a little bit already about, how Trump could win and what are the reasons for, the voter turnout in favor of Trump. Obviously there's a lot of impassioned voters this time around for both sides. And the strongest argument in favor of Trump is the, overall strength of the equity market and the resilience of the economy. We saw just this past week, ISM manufacturing numbers, very, very strong. Most of the manufacturing data has been very strong. By keeping the U.S. economy open and not putting restrictions back on, he's allowed for an economic recovery. And as much as you can criticize his efforts at controlling or controlling or beating out the virus. At the end of the day, he hasn't put the economy at stake in order to do so. I mean, the U.S. government is very much focused more on a vaccine solution rather than a mitigation solution. So, they like him because the stock market has been doing very well. It hit record highs all the time during his term, and it's something that he kind of bragged about often. Data, even up to now, even the most recent economic reports show that the economy is on the upswing. And in terms of a COVID peak, I don't think we're at a COVID peak. I mean, the U.S. COVID cases are at record highs, but the deaths aren't there, or at least the death rate is much lower. And I guess maybe the hope is that there will be a vaccine shortly. And with the U.S. government focusing on that, and with the reality that if Trump wins and we've got a Republican Senate, a stimulus deal would be done quickly. At least with that thought, voters could be voting for Trump and he could, pull to victory. And as we said, Florida, that, there was hope that would swing for Biden, and the fact that it did not and Trump won Florida really increases the chance of an overall Trump victory. So, just throw those in there. And just kind of looking at the markets, I think that Eurodollar is probably going to head lower. 116.92, is an interesting place to sell. So I'm going to be, watching that and see if we get any type of downside traction there. But I think that if we do get a dollar rally, if we see some more good numbers by Trump, one of the currencies that is going to suffer the most is the euro, simply because they're in full lockdown mode in almost all the big cities in Europe, and they would be in big trouble if they're already in big trouble in the fourth quarter, and would be in bigger trouble if we swing to a Trump victory. So
just one last note, because the most interesting story right now, it's always going to be the battleground states. The most interesting story now is North Carolina. North Carolina is 54-45 Biden-Trump, but those are mostly mail-in votes. Really hard. I'm just reading off the political pundits. Really hard to tell what to make of it, given all the X factors about the election day vote. That's the really critical question. How many of the Republican vote showed up in North Carolina on election day versus the Biden vote? If it's a 50-50 split, even if it's a 60-40 split, I think there's a possibility North Carolina goes blue. There's a real possibility. So that's,
but right
that's
now
one thing.
We're trying to explain away numbers that we do not hope to see. And so basically what they are showing, that's pro-Trump right now. And so for now, that's how the market's reacting.
Right. So, it's, it's absolutely, I mean, that's what I said, there's a lot of X factors that you can't really figure out. So we have to, watch that carefully for the next few minutes. But I think the short story right now, before we get into more details, certainly doesn't look like a big blue wave. Certainly doesn't look like Trump is getting pummeled, right? It becoming a very, very tight race. Certainly looks like the polls oversampled for Biden. It doesn't look like a 6% spread, right? But it's still early. We just don't know. It's doing much better in North Carolina than polling predicted per NYT. So it's tilting. So everybody, my friend from Midwest, who really has a good read on this, is NYT just put North Carolina to 63% Trump. So I guess all the in-person voting is really, really moving towards Trump. Wow, it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Trump just won Arkansas, North Carolina.
Okay. So this is something you guys might be interested in. Odds of Trump election victory rise on markets. Last 40% bid versus 33% 2 hours ago. So still less than 50, but better. It's interesting. That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's looking like at very best a stalemate. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Even frigging Maine, which everybody thought was going to really turn blue on the Senate side, is apparently too close to call. So that's how it's playing out. We'll have to, we'll get into the market soon enough. What do we talk about here? So yeah, these are all the things that we talked about as the possibilities of how Trump could lose. None of them seem to be enough. I mean, COVID is a very, very big story. We're at 100,000 cases. This thing is already old. We're at 100,000 cases. We're at 1,000 deaths, but it doesn't seem to be impacting him politically as badly as you would have thought. So it becomes a really, really big problem. And of course, hovering in the background is the Supreme Court. Now, I actually think that you're not going to get to that level. It's either going to be a clear Biden squeak out. So in other words, Biden's going to clearly win in the electoral college. But it's going to be a clear Trump squeak out. The Supreme Court is really loath to take up the election case. So I don't think it's going to go that way. But this is a year where you never know what can happen. It's still, it's interesting. I'm getting very, very conflicting reads on North Carolina. Some people are saying North Carolina looks like it's really in play. Other people are saying no, it's totally Trump's. So I think that's going to be the big question. And of course, that's really the big story. Now, the other story with Biden, of course, is Biden essentially ran on the idea that he's not Trump and he's not Clinton. It's not that Joe Biden is the most charismatic and inspirational guy in the world. He's just not the other guy. And the other guy is either loved or loathed. I mean, just really, really, he's a really highly polarizing figure. And the really big question, and this is why I'm still so fascinated by Ohio, the really super big question is suburban women who were like, 55, 45, Clinton in last time, right? For Biden to win, need to go 60-40 Biden. And that's the unanswerable question right now. We don't know if the suburban women in Ohio, in the suburbs of Ohio, and the suburban women in the suburbs of North Carolina will flip to Biden, because we know that Trump has white men, nailed down cold, and actually polls relatively better than expected with Latino men and African American men, because he appeals very much to the machismo, I think, in both of those groups. So you really have to have a huge flip in the suburban women and the older generation. It's a question of whether the older vote flips to Biden. So it looked really, really good on paper. And as always, whenever you trade, it looks really, really good in the back test, and somehow it all goes completely off the rails in real life. And that's, and that's pretty much what's happening right now. So we have to see. So basically, of course, these.
Euro is moving in our favor. We were short at 116.91. It's at 78.77. If you want to take some quick profits, you could around 76, 77. But I do think that it's going to head lower.
Okay, super. Kay's going to make the calls in FX, and they're going to be, fundamentally directional calls. I'm going to wait to make any calls for myself until I introduce you to my strategy, because I have a scalping strategy, and we're going to use our scalping strategy in about an hour to see if we can get any positional trades on that. But back to politics. These are the states. So Florida's already out of play. Florida was never really, I never trusted Florida. It's always a disappointment. That's off the map. So it really comes down to Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If he can win those, it's a story over for Trump anyways. The polls look good, but again, it's a question of did they oversample? And now the much more interesting question is, what does it mean as to who wins, right? What does it mean whether Trump wins or Biden wins? Obviously, Trump generally is presumed to be better for the energy business, better for financials, and better for infrastructure. Ironically enough, if you look at the numbers, even though Trump talks a good game, energy has been a horrible performer under Trump's administration. Not because he hasn't been friendly, but because it's been a terrible secular decline. basically coal is just out the door because nobody wants to use it. It's not very efficient. Natural gas is super cheap in America and is killing oil as well. And the country is really moving much more towards green energy. So it's no matter how favorable the regulatory environment is, it's a big question whether the energy companies are going to thrive. I do think they're a great value buy at this point. I mean, I would buy Exxon in a heartbeat right now for the dividend, but not necessarily because Trump is going to be the president. But if he is a president, that only kind of buttresses, that definitely does help the scenario. Caterpillar is an infrastructure play, and it's a big question whether in the second term Trump is really going to actually offer an infrastructure plan. And if he does, they certainly benefit. And of course, financials are going to do well because he's going to be remaining a very, very low capital gains regime, and that's going to be very good for financials. For Biden, the story is a little bit different. One thing that's kind of, I think, is unique that people don't appreciate, Biden does not like Brexit. I think is Biden Irish? I think Biden is Irish, first of all. So, he's not a lover of the Brits, period. And he certainly isn't the lover of Boris Johnson and the Conservatives. He's not going to offer UK these favorable terms for trade, right? Unless they fall in line and accept EU terms. So I think Biden win is a negative for pound dollar. It's obviously going to be positive for green energy and infrastructure because that's going to be a big play. But what's interesting is if you notice, Caterpillar is a beneficiary in both under Biden and Trump scenarios because regardless who wins, we got to spend money on infrastructure. They're going to be a big beneficiary of that play. So when we talk about election day risk, it's actually ironically enough, I think all the crazy scenarios that we modeled early. Well, it's too early for me to say. I could say, yeah, it's all going to be quiet. We've had relatively orderly, elections. So who knows how this plays out in the next 12 hours? But the idea that Trump refuses to leave, Biden refuses to concede, we get a tremendous amount of stalemate. Remember, if the election isn't ratified, it goes to the House of Representatives, and Nancy Pelosi, as the Speaker of the House, essentially could become president. So that's your completely out of whack 2020 scenario, but I think the chances of that are like 1%. The one asset.
Let's talk about the assets that win regardless of who becomes president. It's actually not one, it's 1, 2, or 3 assets that could potentially win. The one that, and the reason is, at the end of the day, regardless of who becomes president, both presidents face both presidents face $1 trillion deficits, political turmoil, and no interest rate hikes, and anytime in the near future. And because of that, all of those are the perfect ingredients for number 1, if you want to flip to the side, a gold rally, number 2, a Bitcoin rally, and number 3, a US dollar decline. So regardless of how we do see, just stay on the gold slide, but regardless of how we do
sorry. I was looking for the dollar. We don't have the dollar slide. Go ahead.
Yeah, regardless of how we do see the US dollar move today, and I think we may see a bit of strength in the US dollar. At the end of the day, these are the issues that either president will need to tackle, and they'll be spending a lot of money, which suppresses the value of the greenback, and they'll be running these deficits in order to do so. And so all of that is problematic. Now, we have not seen gold necessarily take off on any of these news. I think that I was just looking at the gold price chart, and it's just kind of uneven. But we do see higher highs, higher lows in gold. And in the long run or in the medium term, gold will rally from the slow bleed of U.S. finances, and may even has reason to benefit from both a Biden and Trump victory. Because if you look at it, if we have a Biden victory and we have the Senate remaining Republican, then that the very first thing we talked about when we started this conversation was how that would create political gridlock. And by creating political gridlock and curtailing the U.S. recovery, or at least the fear of that, it's going to drive stocks lower. And by driving stocks lower, it kind of innately drives gold higher. And so, from a short-term perspective, a Biden win would be positive for gold. In a long-term perspective, it's also positive for gold. For Trump, in the short-term perspective, a Trump victory would be less positive for gold because one would think that with the Senate being Republican and the president being Republican, what he wants to do, he'll continue to forge forward with. But that includes spending, and he's very much been a supporter of getting a big stimulus deal done. And I think that that combined with probably a bigger push for trade tension, for what's the right word? I guess a bigger push for what's fair for the U.S. in terms of trade, it will end up being positive for gold. So that's going to lead to more trade tensions, more tariffs from everyone else in the rest of the world. That political upheaval alone could drive gold higher. So that's why we think that regardless of who wins, gold will be a beneficiary. Also, there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an alternative currency, and we have seen that there's both a fundamental and technical story with Bitcoin. On a fundamental basis, you have seen that the tensions between the U.S. and the rest of the world have led to more diversification by investors, and not just investors in the U.S. obviously, but other parts of the world who fear the money that they may have in the U.S. being put at risk, and so that's benefited Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. From a technical perspective, you also see that we're breaking out, and we broke all of these previous swing highs.
Yeah, and the 218. The only high we haven't broken was the spike parabolic high. We're coming very close to that. So absolutely, yeah.
Right.
This is. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as Bitcoin goes, just sort of on a long-term basis. So I think we're both bullish gold on a long-term basis because of the most important factor is what's called negative interest rates, right? Inflation pressures are inevitably going to go up because we're going to do a lot more money printing. But the Fed is going to suppress interest rates even with what's called yield curve control. In other words, they're just not going to allow yields across the curve to go up, higher. And that creates effectively a negative interest rate that's very positive for gold because gold has no yield. Having said this, though, I'm really, really changing my mind on Bitcoin, which I used to think was just a garbage story, as a genuinely interesting and perhaps a superior alternative asset to gold. If you think about it, gold has no value. Why? What do you need a gold bar for, right? I mean, I have a gold ring. That's about the only value it has. But you're not going to put it in your tooth. It has some industrial maintenance, but you're not going to run an industrial, plant on it. It's heavy as hell. What are you going to do? You have to change countries. Kathy and I are probably going to run to Canada when this is over, and we're not going to be carrying bars of gold with us because they're heavy. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has all the properties of gold. It's scarce, it's anonymous, it's transmutable, right? But it's virtual. And the one fascinating thing that I'm seeing is the relative performance of Bitcoin has been much better than the relative performance of gold. So if you're going to bet on sort of a alternative asset, I think you got to look at Bitcoin now as a superior version of gold because it's certainly gotten consensus as a store of value. So those are longer term ideas that we had. But beginning of the year, our number one call was long gold, and that's performed very well. Gold has actually done just as well as equities, better than equities. It was 1,700 when we started. It went all the way up to 2,000. And within that, one of the calls that I had was Newmont Mining. Newmont Mining is the only major gold miner that is part of the S&P 500. It had a 2.5% yield, and it's actually up 55% this year. So if you want to maintain gold exposure through equities, that still remains to me the preeminent stellar way of trading gold. But if you want to diversify into Bitcoin, it may not be a bad idea. If Bitcoin takes out the 20,000, it can go parabolic. We could see Bitcoin go 50,000 in a highly chaotic, highly unstable U.S.-China rivalry situation. And if we've learned anything over the last 4 years, is that if we're going to get Donald Trump for another 4 more years, stability is not what we're going to get. So I think you're going to get a natural bid out of Bitcoin as the world, chucks again. So looks like the odds are really changing to Trump. Well, Trump is 95% Florida. That's no surprise. But North Carolina, which looked like it was really, really trending Biden, is 73% according to New York Times Needle. But as far as numbers go, let me just read the numbers. They may be updated, which is why the needle is gone. But Biden was up by 12 points in Ohio with 49% counted. He's up 6 points in North Carolina with 67% counted, and he's up 3 points in Texas with 61% in. So it looks like unless things have really, really changed, and maybe they have, so I have to scroll through my feed to see.
So while he talks about what he looks for that, the one thing that we didn't have a chart of was the US dollar, which we already talked about, and how, regardless of who becomes president, high interest rates are not on the table, and a weaker dollar is necessary in order to promote growth. And regardless of who wins, the confrontation between the US and China will continue. So all of that plus the massive, deficits that the US government will be running, the outlook for the US dollar, irrespective of what the short-term move is a long-term negative, particularly against the Japanese yen.
Guys, not my setup, but just NASDAQ is really breaking out at 11,380. So we can get long here for 11,400 if you want to chase NASDAQ with me. That's on the futures. The CFD is going to be a little different. It looks like it's going to hit 400 right now. It does. So it's like for 412. So it's about 25 points in NASDAQ if you took that trade. Good for you. There's a big ramp. The reason why there's a big ramp was because the Ohio, which is what I've been humping for everybody, nobody believed me about Ohio, continues to dominate Biden. Remember, Biden just needs to win Ohio, and he doesn't need to win Pennsylvania. So equities are starting to.
Can you explain why that will lead? Why that is leading to a NASDAQ jump?
Again, the belief is that Biden is going to go for a bigger spend, and he's going to go for a big infrastructure spend, and that's going to be very, very supportive. So Trump's primary stimulus is going to be tax cuts and capital gains cuts, and rich people already have all the money in the world, and it's really not going to have a big what's called multiplier effect. It means big income effect throughout the economy. Biden's stimulus is going to be much more about jobs and income gains, which is a much better play. Secondly, and this is really, really critical, NASDAQ is all technology, right? Technology is really China-based. And although Biden is also, not exactly the friend of China, his relationship with China is going to be a lot more constructive. More importantly, his relationship with technology. Trump right now is suing all the technology companies. They're trying to do antitrust against Google. They're trying to take Facebook and Twitter to the shed. Trump, because of Kamala Harris, who is from San Francisco and is very, very friendly with technology, it's going to be a lot more constructive towards them. NASDAQ is full of technology, so Biden win is seen as very positive for NASDAQ. So all of those things are rocking, and that's why we had this big ramp, because people are looking at Ohio as a possible lock-in for Biden, and that's why we had the run-up. So we'll keep going, and then we will eventually show you the strats. And
they're coming soon. I mean, that's why if you look at the Eurodollar, it's back at 117 right now, and that's why quick profits are important before the outcome is decided. So hopefully some of you took money at 119.70, I think so 76 or something, because these swings will continue during the New York session. Can you go back to one slide back for us?
Yeah. Sorry, this one?
Yes. What I want to show you here is the moves that we had in 2016. where we initially had a bit of a rally in the S&P futures. You can't. So the part that you need to focus on is the right-hand side of the chart right before that huge decline. And so initially we had a little bit of rally in S&P futures, and then we had a very, very aggressive decline. If you run back to 2016, you know, obviously Hillary was initially thought to win, and then it was, you know, it was revealed around, I think, 11-ish that it was going to be a growing chance of a Trump upset. The market did not expect that. Stock sold off aggressively and sold off for a very long time. It sold off all the way until 4:30 in the morning before it bottomed out, reversed, rallied, and hit record highs on the Wednesday after Election Day. Because at the end of the day, Republicans are supposed to be good for stocks, especially when we have a Republican Senate, a Republican president. So that is the type of vol that we could very well have. Now, we already see, for the most part, we're leaning lower. We have not turned positive at all in Dow futures. We've been going from minus 100 to minus 150 to minus 200 points to back to minus 100 to back to minus 50, but it's not swinging positive yet. Could it swing positive? Yeah, I mean, if it does become clear that we do get a Trump victory and a Republican Senate, it looks like we're going to get a Republican Senate, then we could get a sooner recovery or an earlier recovery in stocks, as it's a continuation of the same. It's, you know, the market is already familiar with the policies that Trump wants to push, and we know that they've been widely positive for equities, and so we may have a sooner recovery. So that's basically what I want to show you on this slide. The next slide, if you will do the honors for us. The next slide talks about it on a kind of a longer term basis, which I guess, you know, most of you don't care about right now, but it is widely reported that the comments that Democrats are worse for the equity market is not true. This table proves it. I mean, basically, the average Democrat return is 54% during their term. With a 10% annualized gain, the average return for Republicans is 15% with a 2% annualized gain. So it is not true that Democrats are not good for stocks.
No, okay, but
not what we care about.
I will, in all fairness, because, you know, as you guys both know, you know, Kay and I are both deep blue. In all fairness, it's not as lopsided as it looks, because you got to take out Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover like destroyed the Republican return because he presided over the Great Depression. And, you know, he had terrible returns. If you go essentially from the end of World War II, it's about a 2 to 3% differential to the still significant percent differential to the Dems versus Republicans, but not a grossly massive one like you see. So take this with just a little bit of a grain of salt. But overall, by the way, I bet all of you think, everybody who's a Trump supporter thinks that the economy or the stock market has done really great under Donald Trump. It's actually underperformed Barack Obama in the first 4 years. So, you know, the point being is, who is the president is important, but not as important as all the other considerations that go into the underlying economy at the time. Still, there is a statistically significant outperformance by Democrats, but not as wide as this chart shows. Okay.
And the other markets, let's take a look at how the other markets perform. So the other markets, you can see from a dollar index perspective, it really doesn't matter. Typically, it's more important. What's more important is the election year. During election years, the dollar index tends to outperform, and euro dollar tends to weaken, and we're actually seeing euro dollar weaken quite a bit. And gold and dollar yen is a bit of a wash. And, you know, that's also another reason why euro dollar is back down. And we should pull the trigger on reselling at 117, but we obviously didn't. I can't claim credit for that. But still, you know, the trend and the trade right now, I think, is still looking at a euro move lower. And for those of you who have not closed, or if you want to get in, if it gets back up to the high 80s or 90, you may consider that. But right now, you know, I think euro shorts, you know, a good thing to look at. Now, let's get this on paper. Let's go to the next slide. If we have a clean-cut Trump victory, where he quickly wins all those or enough of those swing states that we talked about earlier, you're going to see stocks recover. You're going to see dollar yen, which is already, fairly resilient, extend its gains. You're going to see the euro dollar fall. You're also going to see probably euro pound fall, because we talked about how Trump is far more friendly to, or actually just far more supportive of Brexit than Biden. So that's basically what we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at euro pound decline if Trump wins. We're going to look at dollar yen rally, euro dollar decline, and also probably a dollar CAD rally, because Trump is far less friendly to Canada than Biden. So what if we get a Biden victory? Well, Biden victory would be a bit more problematic because if the Senate is Republican, as it's showing that it should be, because what that really means is just political gridlock. I mean, a blue wave would be, would make the trades a lot easier, but it doesn't look like we'll have that. So if we would Biden victory or signs of it, what we'll probably end up seeing is initially weakness for stocks, although, we just showed you the other chart saying, if you think of the long term, it's really not so bad, but initially weakness for stocks, weakness for dollar yen. We'll probably see, a euro dollar rally. We'll probably see euro pound strength, because Biden has been far more critical about the UK's decision to leave the European Union, and probably a decline in dollar CAD, because Biden will most certainly be friendlier to our Canadian neighbors than Trump, and the relations between US and Canada will probably improve. And in some ways, maybe the euro pound dollar CAD trade is a bit more interesting than the dollar yen trade. But that's, putting those thoughts onto paper and everything we kind of outlined out is what we're looking at. Some people are saying they don't have audio. You hear me fine, Boris?
I hear you fine. Yeah, just if you don't have audio, just log in, log out. It's not us, it's you.
It's actually just one person, which
Okay.
is fine. So let's talk about our trading strategies.
Okay, I'm so engrossed, and it seems like nobody really knows what's going on in North Carolina and Ohio. And I keep saying, my only great call was that Ohio was going to be the surprise. If Ohio is the surprise, it's going to be very, very difficult for Trump to win. But it doesn't matter, because my trading strategy does not depend on what I think. It depends on what the market does. So let me explain to you what we do all day long in the BK chat room as far as trading stock index futures and CFDs, which is what I do. Kathy trades currencies and I trade stock index futures. So I'm going to show you a couple of setups of what we do. It's actually extremely, extremely simple with just a little bit of technology magic. And then I'm actually going to show you, I think I'm going to show you samples of it just on a demo account of how we actually execute some of these trades to get them all organized. So the first thing we do on a long example is we want to trade in trend. And you have to understand that what I'm about to show you can work on a 1 month chart, on a 1 week chart, on a 1 day chart, on a 1 hour chart, doesn't matter. But what we do on a day-to-day basis, in and out all the time, is actually trade the 1 minute chart, because I am a scalper by temperament. I like short, quick, multiple wins during the day. And in order to establish that, the first and most important thing that we do is we look for trend. So the blue line is a short moving average. This is actually nothing more complex than MACD deconstructed. The blue is the shorter MACD average. The black is the longer MACD average. And this is basically positive histogram. When we have positive histogram, we have positive trend. That's the first thing we try to establish for the long side. Then in step 2, we look for the reference point. And this is where we're very, very unique. We're very, very unique in our reference points because we have these proprietary reference points. And what you're looking at right now is TradingView. And I'll just to kind of show you, let me just carry this over. Let's see if I can, my whole, so you guys are watching, this is actually TradingView Live. And we have this program both for TradingView and for MT4, MT5, these reference points on the charts, and they're kind of colored. Let me come back off of it and back to my slide to show you basically that what we do, which is very, very counterintuitive, but works really well, is a white line on TradingView is actually a selling candle. It's a selling reference point, right? It means the sellers are in command. As you can see, a lot of times it actually shows us tops and bottoms, but that's not what we trade. What we trade is failure of sellers to get the price lower. We love to trade failure. Instead of success, we trade failure, because when we can get the seller's reverse, in other words, here's the selling candle, here's the high of that candle. That high gets reversed on this candle. This candle closes above the high. If we get a candle close above the high of the sell candle, that is a beautiful entry signal for us. That means all the sellers are trapped. We get a short squeeze, and we have a quick 10, 20 points in the NASDAQ. We do this all day long, all night long on the long side. And then, of course, obviously, we trade continuation. And, here's the selling candle. We break the high on this particular candle. The high breaks on this particular candle, and we just go long on the trade. On the short example, right? On the short example, it's the exact opposite. We're looking for the failure of the buy candle, and this little green candle is the buy candle, right? And if the lows of that buy candle in a downtrend get taken out, in this case, they get taken out on a closing basis on this the selling candle over here. This candle closes below the lows of this buy candle. That's an entry for us, and that's a continuation. So it's kind of unique and unusual because we trade trend, but most people like to trade retrace. They like to buy the dips, sell the rallies. We don't try to guess tops and bottoms. We actually trade momentum within trend. We want to be selling when the selling really shows when the market proves to us it's willing to sell. And we determine that by actually taking out the lows of the buy candles or the highs of the sell candles in an uptrend. And when we get those reversal moves, we have an incredibly high probability of success. So we hit those things all day long, every day, 10, 12 hours. I live trade in our chat room at least 1.5 hours every day. And those of you guys who have been with me obviously for a long time can as a matter of fact, let me brag a little bit. Here we go. Let me pull up. We did a little bit of trading today, right? I'll give you some testimonials. Where is this? Okay, I was talking about Robert Lewandowski. Those of you who are okay, let me see. Where's all my great testimonials? Okay, thank you for sharing. What a ramp. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't find my. I can't find all my. Anyways, trust me that everybody made really, really nice money today, and they were all very thankful for all my calls. But the beauty of the setup that I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at it, what's happening right now, and we can apply it to almost any instrument that we want to do. But before we get to that, let me take you to Kathy's setup, and she can explain to you what she does as well. Okay, so go ahead, Kate. Kathy, where is she?
Oh, sorry. There's some interesting setups that are happening right now, like selling Euro Swiss. Euro Swiss is at 106.81, and we'll go back and look at them. I'm just marking the levels down. And I think Kiwi CAD was a maybe. Yeah, I mean Kiwi CAD was a maybe trade, but the clean one I think was Euro Swiss. Okay, so let's look at my trading strategy. So what do I do every single day? I'm a big proponent of visual trading, and so is Boris, as you saw in what he showed you. And the reason why we're big proponents of visual trading is because we believe that, with visual trading and be able to see things quickly and easily, you can simplify your analysis, identify, the trades that are looking good or at any point in time. It also helps to foster patience, to make sure that you try only to take the trades that are in line with your strategy, and it helps you achieve your goal. So what do I use? In this next chart, you will see that I use what we call the Zip Trader indicator. And this is an indicator or a trading template that we have created for TradingView. And it's very, very simple to read. All you do is you simply look for the candle to cross the indicator line, which is the blue line that's running across the chart. If it crosses below the indicator line from the top to the from the upside to the bottom side, and the background is red, the candle will turn white with like a reddish background around, or reddish border. If we are,
so interrupt you. Are you guys seeing my are you seeing my cursor here?
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Okay, good. I'm trying to be the stewardess to your explanation. Go ahead.
If the currency pair crosses the indicator line from the bottom, and it kind of spikes up above it, and it closes, and this is a 1-hour chart, and the background is green, then it indicates a buy signal. And that's kind of what we saw in Euroswiss. If you want to pull this in the background so we can pull it back later, of course, we'll take a look at it in 1 second. But that's what we look for. And you can see from this chart here, if in the middle of the chart, if you can go back to the slide, so we can do this later then.
Yeah, sorry.
Go back to the chart. You'll see in the middle, we've got two white candles with a red border. This is what I like to call the double zip signal, a double zip sell. And that's a precursor to a huge move lower in Kiwi dollar. And it's very easy to identify and very easy to see. You can see the same thing in the next chart. In the next chart, what you see is dollar Swiss. And in this whole chart, in the middle, you only see two white candles, one in the middle, one towards the right, both of which, were very strong signals for a sell in dollar Swiss. And then let's look for, I think there's a buy on the next chart. No, there's no buy in the next chart. I thought there was a, sorry, go back to, I thought there was a buy on the left-hand side, but it didn't.
Do you want me to go to this chart, the Australian dollar?
It didn't happen. It was still a sell, an Aussie CAD sell in the middle. There was two opportunities to get in. And then lastly, the last example is dollar yen, which, as I said, is very clean and very easy to identify. Now, of course, I never just take these signals blindly. I always have, what I call a fundamental overlay. I incorporate my macro views into the trading opportunities in order to filter out the false signals, in order to identify the best opportunities. And the way I do that is every single week, I have this little heat map that I create, and it looks like this, where I basically, before the week begins, before I put my very first trade on, I think about, what my biases for the week is. And for example, last week into ECB, our members will tell you, I was just pounding the euro lower. And I was just saying, sell euros, sell euros, sell euros. And we waited for every single opportunity in every single euro pair, like euro Aussie, or euro Kiwi, euro yen, euro dollar, waiting for those zip signals and some zip variations in order to sell the euro. Now, this is an older snapshot, so it doesn't incorporate that. But we have certain views that we always, like today, we were bullish the Canadian dollar all around. And, we wanted to buy the Canadian dollar because I thought, we had a risk rally in the morning. And, the caddy tends to have a delayed reaction. And I thought, we're going to get a really nice caddy move. And it did happen, which was also a function, of the zips trade. But the whole usage of this this heat map is I use my fundamental views to filter out technical signals to make sure that we only take the good signals. Like today, you know, there haven't been, you know, that much in the way of two-way swings, but two-way swings in terms of the buy and sell signals. But right now, with stock futures pretty much staying negative. I mean, they're up, they're less negative than they were earlier, but still, we haven't gone positive yet. My bias has still been, you know, to short risk, which is why, you know, euro dollar was a trade we looked at, which is why euro Swiss is a trade that we're looking at. But we use these fundamental views to filter out our technical signals. And if you clicked on any of these boxes, you'll see in the next slide that they expand. And they expand and provide you a more detailed explanation of why I am, you know, either bearish dollars or bullish yen. So there's a few components to every single zip trade I take. The first one is the zip trader signal, where we have the white candle. The second one is I incorporate my macro views. And then the third one, and it's using this heat map. And the third one, Boris, is I look for moving average clearance. This is also very, very important. A little bit of a secret sauce of mine. I mean, it's not really rocket science, but it's a very important part of the analysis, which is that I also only take trades when I have moving average clearance. So what does that mean? That means that, you know, we looked at our zip indicator, but I want to make sure that I'm not selling into moving averages. I want to make sure when I buy, like in the first arrow, if I'm going to buy, I want to buy after it's broken out above all of the moving averages, not buy when I've got the 100 SMA right on top of me and I'm buying into resistance. Same thing with short trades. On the right-hand side, this dollar yen chart was, you know, when we were taking that dollar yen short trade, and it was after dollar yen on the 4-hour chart. So I like to go to a slightly longer term time frame. And you know, you can see on the 4-hour chart that when we had that zip signal, we also had dollar yen basically below all of the key moving averages I follow, which is the 20, 50, and 100 SMA. So I made sure that was below all of the key moving averages, and that gave me the confidence to take the trade. So I have Roland asking me, you know, how can we access these fundamental views? This is something that, you know, is exclusive to our members of BK Forex. So this is the moving average clearance that we saw, and if you go to the next slide, this just shows, you know, what moving average clearance, you know, looks like, explaining how you want to be above all the moving averages. For a buy trade, you want to be below all the moving averages. For a sell trade, you do not want to be selling into moving average support or buying into moving average resistance. So we had that for dollar yen, which is why in the next slide, when we took the dollar yen trade, I'll be the first to admit in the dollar yen slide, Boris, just move to the next slide. We did not take 300 pips off this move. We took a sliver of this, but we had the zip signal on the left-hand side of the chart, dollar yen zip sell, where the currency pair crossed below the indicator line, and we had all the moving averages basically below. It had broken below all the moving averages. So with that, I want to share my screen real quick.
Okay, take control of the screen.
Do you see my screen?
Yep, I see your screen. You got euro dollar on the screen.
Okay, so we don't want to look at euro dollar. We want to look at euro Swiss, which is what I was just talking about. Right here, zip sell signal. And that's why we took this trade. Yes, we had a zip buy signal earlier, but that was before all the polls closed. It was at 5 o'clock New York time. So obviously we're not trading before the any US election results come in. So we sold euro Swiss because we have a sell signal, and you know, we can check our moving averages on the 4-hour chart. And you can see that we were below all of the key moving averages. I don't know how much momentum we'll get off of this. It could just be a trade for fun. Because, you know, we're still watching all the election results, but you know, that was a really nice one. We sold euro dollars earlier. This was just a little bit of a front running move. We didn't have a zip signal, but if we do get a close below this indicator line, the candle will turn red, at which point we will get a euro dollar sell signal. And you can see from the 4-hour chart that at that point we'd be below the yellow line, which is 20 SMA, so we'll be below all of the major moving averages. And hope for those of you that went short euros, you can, at any point that we talked about today, it's working out really well. If we kind of scan through the charts, a lot of them aren't doing anything, like dollar yen's not doing anything, Kiwi dollar's not doing anything, nothing interesting in pound dollar. Dollar Swiss is an interesting trade because it's rallying, but we may find some resistance up here. Other currencies, we can just look through this quickly, but I already kind of was scanning through the charts earlier to see which ones were actually moving. But euro yen closing below the moving average,
and that's very reflective of very, very strong risk-off flows across all the assets.
122.06 could have been a interesting level to enter a short euro yen trade. And for euro dollar, if you were short euro dollar, we shorted initially at 91. You should definitely be out of this trade at 66. We'll probably go more. I think we will because we're starting to get a sell signal. But that would be a good point to kind of definitively take profits and wait for a little bit more of a rally. But euro yen could turn into a nice little zip trade. We do want the candle to close, but with election stuff, sometimes I'll admit, sometimes I do front run it. Euro Swiss, we talked about that already. And that's pretty much, I don't think I see anything else. I'm just kind of scanning through the charts. Nothing else quite yet forming. But euro yen definitely interesting if it closes. Euro dollar too. I'm still very keen on selling euro dollars. But that was a pretty nice trade. If you took it once, you took it twice.
Can we take it to me? Do you need the screen anymore?
No.
Okay.
Let's go back. If I see anything else, I will holler it out.
Wait, let me see which screen I'm waiting. What is my screen? Okay. So I just want to show you because Kathy and I actually have very, very different styles, as you can see, but very, very similar tactics. I am watching NAS right now. This is the 1-minute chart. We're watching very, very short-term charts, but we're looking for the same thing. I'm looking here. We have starting to have a negative moving average movement here, separation in the moving average, and we have a buy candle over here. So what's happening right now is the market is just completely changed its tone from risk on to risk off as betting markets and everybody else is projecting that it's basically a push. Nobody knows what a market is going to, nobody knows who's winning the election. So we're going to watch this. And if the NASDAQ closes, if the next 60 seconds, this candle closes below this buy candle, if it's essentially a failed buy, that's going to trigger a sell for us. For at least 10 points to the downside. So we're gonna watch and see if the risk-off flows materialize. We got about 40 seconds, 41 seconds. We'll just watch this, but only, and this is the critical thing, we only enter if the market can hold those levels. And you can see, even on a 1-minute chart, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market has conviction. And the market has to prove to us that it's indeed starting to head lower. Right now, it's definitely starting to look more negative as people are starting to price in a very long night and a possibility of contentious election. Contentious election is, of course, very, very negative risk because it means that there could be uprising and all sorts of social unrest. So we just broke the lows. So it just broke the lows. You can see the close of this candle just broke the lows. We're going to watch this for a minute or two if you guys want to hang with me. And sometimes it resolves very quickly. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it doesn't work. But we're going to basically see if we can target around 1330. It's actually pretty much there. It's moving very, very fast. But if you wanted to, generally we target, we're in at 1340 and it's 1328 is plus 12. We see if we can make another 20 points out of it. But even 15 points right now is still very, very good for a nice clean move. And that's like 90% of our trades, these kind of quick, sharp, boom, boom setups. Now, I do this, of course, on, as I said to you, on a 1-minute chart because we're scalping, but the same dynamic, the same situation can be projected on a much longer term charts, on 1-hour charts, 2-hour charts with much longer, but but no less effective example. See right here, boom. So basically, we essentially made full 20 points. The market gave us the right signal to make the trade. So thank you, Kay. That was 20 points on the NAS for us on the live. And now we can go back to what we're talking about, right? Let me just go
Not
back.
just that, look at euro. If you pull up euro dollar on the zip, we're at 116.39 now. So really beautiful downside trade.
Right.
And
Let me pull. Let me pull you. No, unfortunately, the euro is on my charts over here is not is.
Real quick, you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful euro dollar zip sell signal, and euro Swiss too. It's up 10 pips already. If you want to take profits, 106.71 for another 10 pip. As I said, euro Swiss, I don't really know how much it's going to move. But we can't complain. It's not like it's euro dollar or something like that. So if you want to take the 10, 11 pips, that's money made on top of what you made in euro dollar. Euro yen, we'll have to see, because dollar yen's obviously rallying. It's really strong, so that could affect it. But keep an eye out for that one. And dollar CAD is also an interesting one.
My Pomeranian refuses to. He wants to be held. He's my, what is that? He's my comfort dog, right? Okay.
So yeah, I mean, the FX trades are working. The FX trades are working really nicely. But you can see some of the big moves already happened. 106.41, and it's a bounce is not out of the ordinary. And that's kind of what we're seeing, a little bit of FX. And so you got to be a little bit more patient if you want to get back into the trades. But we made some nice money in the euro dollar for that, what ended up becoming ultimately a 50-point move decline in the euro, depending upon definitely where we've started selling it. And depending upon how many times you took that trade, it was a very nice one. And also euro Swiss, very clean, very clear trade. Euro dollar, if it closes like this, we could very much get some nice continuation as the evening progresses as well.
There's a lot. The reason why you're seeing so much negative blasé is because betting markets went to 50-50 and maybe even 55-45 Trump. But betting markets don't know elections. Biden is still up in Ohio by 160 with Cuyahoga County, which is a very, very big urban county to be counted. So we'll have to see. As I said, I think Biden wins Ohio. That's going to completely change the shape of the race and some assumptions. Yeah. But
so what you will learn is that I trade not necessarily what I hope and think will happen, but what is actually happening. And so it was a clear US dollar rally off of risk conversion, off of that the Dow futures was not turning positive. And I always look at the other markets for guidance, and off of what is actually being reported, which is that Trump is having much more of a lead than the polls initially showed. So
and this is very, very typical, by the way, of how we trade. Like, we don't let our politics get in the way of our trading. When we were trading Brexit, we were convinced that the country was going to remain, and we thought for sure it was going to be positive cable, and we came in long cable into the session. And then when Liverpool voted for Brexit, we completely changed our view and totally went negative pound, and picked up, I think, 250 points in a pound that night. So it's very, very important that when you trade, you separate your politics from your market view. We trade what the market is showing us, as you can see, and we have a whole bunch of tools to help us along with that, visual and actually also execution tools. One of the things that I'm going to show you in a little bit is our execution tools as well. But that's I think a critical component of why why we succeed in the markets, is because we don't trade our opinion. We trade the market's opinion. Go ahead, Kate.
Absolutely true. So, with that, if we can go back to the slides.
Yeah, let me go back to the slides. Okay. So this was we kind of stopped at the dollar yen you were showing.
I don't see, I'm just seeing myself right now.
Oh, sorry.
I'm still showing,
Wait, hold on. Well, hold on. Who's what do we got on the? Oh, who's the presenter? Me?
I'm
Me.
the
I'm sorry.
presenter, so just drop it back to
Okay.
you.
Show my screen. Let me see what we're doing on the screens here. Waiting for screen. There we go. Okay. So we're back to the presentation. So here's this. This was your.
So we talked about dollar yen, and we talked about how that this was obviously a illustrative. This is for illustrative purposes, and we also looked at some real life trades, and we talked about how we basically would have taken some of the real live trades like the euro dollar short, the euro yen short, which is still in play, the euro Swiss short, all of those things, had set up. Some other ones are setting up from my perspective, but what we do is we look at these things every single day. It's not as if we just wait for election day to do. This is the way we trade every single day, and that's what we want to invite you to do with us.
Yes.
If you take a look to this slide, we invite you to come join us and trade with us every single day. Boris trades Dow, DAX, NASDAQ live during the day. I trade currencies, and we target 100 pips a week. We've done a fantastic job of meeting that goal. If you, if on the side you'll pull up, just go to our website and then click Get Started. Not that link, but you'll see that we've got a little graphic of how well we've done. I think in the past 15, 16 months, I've only had one losing month, of which we only lost 70 pips. And so we've done a really, really great job of meeting those targets. So we invite you to come join us. It's completely free. If you want to get a sponsored account by our broker partner, you can, at the bottom of that page, which we'll show you later, there's also a link if you want to open up a membership account directly with us. But you get a lot from us. We do these. Go back one more, Boris.
This one?
No, skip ahead one.
So, sorry, there's a massive lag between me turning the slides and showing it up. Okay, sorry.
So you get a lot from us. This type of live trading session, which we did with you today, we do, and Boris does live trading, pretty much every single day.
No, every single day. I do this every single day. The New York Open, we trade 4, 5, 6 different trades in at least 3 instruments: the Dow, the DAX, and the NASDAQ. Across both CFDs and futures, and we bang it away. I mean, like the month of October, literally every day I traded live, we had 1 losing day. So it's 20 days, 19 out of 20 days we made money. And that's what makes us kind of very unique. We trade live a lot. We trade real time. We trade real prices. We don't just say, oh, this looked good on the trade yesterday. If you had taken it yesterday, you would have made money today. Every one of our calls is audited, time-stamped, called, and traded. And when I trade live, I'm actually trading my own account live. Right now, I can't do it just because it's too much taxing on the computer. But I trade my own futures account live, and then we trade the CFDs live with everybody else, and everybody participates with us. And the most important thing, this is really the key thing, it's not our signals are great. We make pips very consistently, but it's the ability to learn to trade. The reason why people love to live trade with me is because they absorb our strategy. And the 12 hours that I'm not with you, you can trade it yourself. You can really trade the same ideas, the same strategies, because the strategies we have been battle tested over many, many years across multiple markets with very, very different instruments. They all work really well. And if you're just interested in learning how to trade, I can't think of a better way of doing it, because you are literally shown all the great ideas live from us. And you have access to all the tools and everything else that we will provide for you completely free when you come in. All those visual maps, all those little marks, all those blue, all those green, red changes of color on the maps, all of that comes with your membership, which is totally free if you sign up with our sponsored broker.
Yeah, all the indicators that I've shown you. So Boris live trades every single day. I send trade ideas through push notifications, so you don't have to join a live trading room. And I'll send you ideas with very specific entry and exits. And when I exit, I send you an immediate text, and it tells you, exactly what price I'm exiting at. And so your hand is held along the way. And my goal is to make you 100 pips a week, 300, 400 pips a month. Last month in October, we made 328 pips. So we are solidly hitting that goal. And like I said, you get a lot. You get trade ideas from Boris, you get trade ideas from me, a lot more than 3 to 5 actually. You get all of our visual strategies and indicators. We have coaching sessions. We also have access to our exclusive membership dashboard, and you get to learn, new strategies all of the time. But to make it better, if you sign up by Monday and you fill out your application, you don't have to fund it, but you need to send it pretty quickly, but at least get the application in by Monday with our broker partner. You'll get a full membership to BK Forex, which normally costs $175 a month. You get 3 free trading courses: our Trend Catcher Forex strategy, our Swing Macro Forex trading strategy course, our news strategy course, which can definitely be used for trading these high-profile days and events. And this week we've got a lot of them. We have the Bank of England's rate decision on Thursday. We've got the FOMC. We have non-farm payrolls on Friday. Lots of high-profile events. You get 3 trading strategies, 1 MT4 EA, of course, continuous support for Boris and myself. And you get all of that, for free if you open up with our broker partner. Now, our broker partner does not operate in every jurisdiction, every country. So if that is not the case, if you want to click on the free membership link for us, you scroll to the very bottom of the page. You can also, subscribe to us directly with a discounted monthly offer. So give us a shot. We hope that we hope that you like what you see today, and you've enjoyed trading with me in Forex, and you've enjoyed some of the ideas that Boris had.
Right.
Because we do this every single day. We try to make money every single day. We focus on strategies with 80 and 90% accuracy, which we think we've done a pretty good job of achieving, and our members are quite happy with that. And we want to get the word out so that more people can benefit from our ideas, our indicators, and our strategies.
There's a lot of questions from the Kiwis in the crowd, and from everybody from down under in Oz, about, hey, yeah, it's great that you trade the U.S. session, but it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for me. What about addressing the Asia session? So first of all, to make you understand,
my ideas. I have tons that come out in Asia.
Right, correct. So number one, Kathy has a ton of Asia session trades that come out pretty much morning Australia, like morning Melbourne, mid-morning, early morning Melbourne, Singapore, and Tokyo. I trade New York because New York is the most liquid time in the equity market. But that's not the only session I'm going to be trading. We started live trading last month as kind of a experiment. It's gone so well, and it's gotten so much interest that we're going to now expand it to Asia. So for those of you who want to join us, and especially those of you who are in Asia, we're going to trade the European session, which is the second most liquid session, and that's actually evening for you. That's 7, 8 o'clock, just when you get back from work. It's a perfect time for you to trade. I am up from 3 o'clock in the morning, New York. Kay and I kind of split the day, and I trade. I've always traded London Open, anyways. So there is plenty of opportunity for you to learn how to trade London Open and the New York Open with us. We're going to make those opportunities available for you as the month progresses. So fear not. Those of you in Asia, we're here. We will be there to show you great ideas. And once you learn them in a live environment, you can take them with you and actually trade yourself on regular hours. So that'll be very, very good. Do I have a robot trading system? So everybody is reading my mind about what I want to show you. So what we have is, we have algos, but that's not really the truly cool thing that I have. The truly cool thing that I have is we have algos that help us. Well, this is an Australian dollar. Let's just do NASDAQ, my bread and butter. So I have a tool that we trade with in our live session room that is just an amazingly cool tool. I'm going to show you sort of very, very quickly some of the things you can do. So I can just click on this on the buy, and it will automatically put a stop loss and a take profit on my trade, right? More importantly, I can actually change my take profit after the trade. So let's say I put my take profit to 5 points, right? It automatically takes my take profit to 5 points. I can put my stop loss, and actually, boom, it just took me out at a profit. You see that? The tool is an amazing execution tool, but it's also a very, very intelligent entry tool. So I could actually tell it, hey, I want you to enter on candle close, right? So let's say I'm going to be a buyer at 13. Let's say if it goes 1380. Let's just say NAS rises to 1380. It'll put a mark over here at the 1380 mark, and if the candle closes through that, it will trigger a buy, right? I can do the same thing on the sell side. More importantly, I can move this up and down. I can totally visually move it up and down and change the values of where I want the thing to trigger, right? We use this obviously with our reference points. We don't do it blindly, over here. But it's an incredibly useful tool that both does mechanical entry, risk management, and then if I want to, total manual entry and manual management. So I could just come in here and I could close my trade right away, right? Boom, boom, without any sweat. So this tool is available both MT4 and MT5. And we trade this with stock index futures and CFDs. People have asked me, what does the CFD stand for? CFD stands for contract for difference, and it's just in America. We trade listed futures. In non-America, everywhere outside of America, everybody else trades what's called contract for difference. They're essentially the same thing. They're basically levered instruments that are derivatives of an index. So in this case, the index is a NASDAQ, but it also can trade the Dow, the DAX, anything. We can trade anything we want, to our liking. And as we can see over here,
Euro single biggest call, best call of the night, best trade. It's down, 80 pips, probably going to be 100 pips. Definitely, we caught that. Got the idea in it, because why? We fused fundamentals with technicals. The fundamental story was the worst, or has been the worst, for the Eurozone because of the lockdowns and the virus. And you fuse that with some of the technicals, and that's why it's single-handedly the best trade of the night. So we have one question: can I sign up for your course without refunding with the broker? Yes, I invite you to go to bkforex.com. Click on Forex courses, and you can see all of our courses there. And just look through our website. I encourage you to do that. But nothing's better than free. And so if you want to give our broker a shot, we like them a lot, quite a bit. They're really, a great team out there. So
yeah, and you can see, our broker is trading really great spreads. Let's just look at the NAS, and even in the high volatility, it's only like one wide. And if you want to trade euro, euro is very, very tight, right? Look at this. Where's euro? Euro is even less than one. I can't move my thing. I'm having a hard time gripping my thing. Sorry. But anyways, you can see the euro is trading. So you can look at it this way. It's trading, half a pip wide.
Yeah, that's great for a high event.
Yeah, for a high event. So it's a great execution broker. We're very happy with them. They're fully regulated. So we recommend you guys open up. It's the easiest and most productive way for you to do it. You're going to open up an account anyways. You might as well open an account with a broker that's going to give you all the education through us and use all of our trading signals and all our strategies and all of our tools. You cannot get these tools anywhere but from us. So, and the only way you can get them is if you join us. And the best way to join us is to open an account with our broker.
So simple, really easy link. Boris can put up our slides again. We'll email you the recording with the link, trading.bkforex.com/free-membership. If you have an account already with someone else, you can certainly open up a new account with this broker, transfer in your funds. If you have an account already with the broker, you can add more funds. And there's lots of different ways to qualify. How small of an account can I profitably trade FX at the London market open after opening an account with your broker? Well, I mean, we never encourage massive leverage. So you know, probably
you would have to, well, in order to get our membership, let's just, in order to get our membership, you would have to, put in a certain amount, right, Kay? I don't know.
Yeah,
Is
I
it?
was gonna say profits are easy, but meaningful profits are different for everyone because we do a pretty good job, and we have been consistent in terms of profitability. But what's meaningful is different for everyone else, and there are minimums. Click on that link, you'll see them. Right, you'll see them right there. We do not offer copy trade. That requires a whole bunch of different types of regulations, and so it's just it's not something we chose to do.
Yeah, we prefer to teach you how to trade rather than copy trade because you'll never really learn the markets if you just blindly copy trading. And then the moment you go away, you're not going to be able to have any kind of durable skills. We help you learn how to analyze and trade the market. That's much more in the long run, much better for you. Cost to join up. If you're non-American,
just look at the website. It's all there, and if you want to sign up directly, there's a special membership link at the bottom of that page. So feel free to opt for that.
Right. Somebody's saying that the Aussie leverage is going to be 30-1 in March of 2021. That's correct. That's more than enough. We rarely trade with more than 10-1 leverage. You don't need to. I mean, even on stock index futures, I never trade anything beyond that. If you do lots of trades like we do, and you stay consistent, you gain leverage through turnover rather than getting leverage through leverage. It's a much better way of trading.
Right.
Okay.
So for my fundamental views, you get my fundamental heat map. You also get my indicator. So that's the way I teach you to do it yourself as well, because there's plenty of trade ideas. I traded the Asia session. I like to trade the Asia Open, and I like to trade the New York Open. But there's a lot of setups around the 1-2 a.m. New York time, which is early European or European Open, that I'm not awake for. That a lot of our members trade themselves, and we'll chat in the room and share ideas and point out what they see to each other. Any other questions? If you, we're going to send this recording to everyone. If you have any other questions, you can always email me at Kathy@bkforex.com, Boris@bkforex.com. We're more than happy to answer your questions. And this move,
we're soon.
Today, I think it's just the beginning. It could be a long night ahead. But we're on the right side, and that's the most important thing. We try to be on the right side every single day.
Right. We just need to be on the right side of history. But we're definitely on the right side. We're just definitely on the right side of the markets. If you guys are going to be up, I'll be on CNBC 4 o'clock. Probably drowning my sorrows, but we'll see. We're gonna deconstruct at that point. Maybe the picture will become clearer. It's as bleak as it looks in terms of if you're blue, there is just tremendous amount. I'm looking at my feed, tremendous amount of cross information. There are still many people that are the betting markets have Trump leading. The betting markets have Trump leading, but the betting markets again are not the real market. Other people who are posturing are handicapping it around 68% Biden still winning. It's still unclear what, where, and how things are going. But certainly, I mean, there's just no doubt that Trump outperformed the polls, and that's very, very clear that there is, there is a.
He outperformed the polls by far, and and as I said, a Trump victory, or signs of Trump victory, was going to be the bigger upset, and we traded that. We watched stocks. We saw that they never turned positive and are getting much more negative, and we leaned in that direction. Another thing is Wisconsin is not expected to release its results till 6 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, so this could get very drawn out, and Wednesday could be another heavy volatility day in the market.
So somebody's I'll leave you with this. My nightmare scenario of litigating absentee ballots in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania for next month isn't the most likely scenario yet, but it's looking a lot more likely than it did a few hours ago. Yeah, I mean, do we go back to Bush v. Gore in the next time? Yes. We'll see. We'll see. I am not going to be bleak until I have to be, but it could very well be where we have yet another, like literally, in the last 30 years, we've had only one Republican president win majority vote. So we could literally, America could literally be under minority government yet for another 4 years. So we'll see. But let's not call that until it's there. In the meantime, the market's reacting to what's happening now, and that's what we reacted. We react to what's happening now. We take the information, we use that to our best abilities, and we obviously have the skills and the strategies to pay out. So hopefully.
I have no experience in forex trading. Is there a notification that tells when is a good time to enter the market? That's exactly what we do. We hope that you have some experience where you know how to place an order and know how to place stops and limits, but we tell you exactly when to buy, what price to buy and what price to sell at.
I just want to show you. This is Kathy's feed in our chat room, where she beautifully tells you the currency pair, the stops, the targets, the reasons for why she's going to trade the whole thing, and as you can see, this resulted in a 34 pip profit. So there's a very, very clear, definitive narrative that almost anybody can understand, and people within a couple of weeks completely absorb this and start really, really trading. As a matter of fact, Kathy's strategy is called the ZIP strategy, and I've noticed that everybody who follows her now started calling themselves the Zippers. So they're always looking for zippy setups. So, and the other thing is I was going to say is that we provide very, very different experiences for different people. There are people who want to have a more leisurely, more precise type of trading experience that doesn't require to be glued to the desk. That's Kathy's approach. And then there is the very, very intense, let's look at the markets, trade for a couple of hours, make our pips, and walk away. A day trading approach, which is what I do. So you have really exposure to all different kinds of styles, and that's what makes it so interesting and so valuable. Because depending on your personality, depending on what you like, you can experience everything. So that's our chat room. I just wanted to give it a
I think that's it. We invite you to come join us, give us a shot. We hope you liked what you saw today and you had a good time. We certainly had fun.
We did.
And we hope to, and if you have any further questions, you can email us. So someone here says, I'm confused, I can't find the name of the Broker Your Luck website. You have to click on the free membership link. It's right there. We work with.
And also really, really don't worry. We're going to email you. We will email you. You have plenty of time to, like, if you can't find it right now, just give us a couple of hours. By tomorrow morning, we'll be able to email everybody all of the information, and you'll have all that, and you can always come back to us. So if for any reason you're not getting it, you can always reach us at contact@bkforex.com. That's our email.
All right. Have a great night. We know that we'll be burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, we will be. We will be, guys.
I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see.
We'll see. We're still living with
enthusiasm in my voice. Let's put it that way. Yeah, but I'm very enthusiastic about today's session now, and we had a great one. I hope all of you had a great time.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.